We are going to start the third plenary session. As we know that our focus is on the quality enhancement and employability in higher education. Now I'm handing over the mic to the chairperson to continue this session and to chair this session for the further proceedings here.
Respected Professor Ajay Rathore, Director, Technical Institute of Advanced Studies, Dr. Sandeep, and other members of organizing team, faculty colleagues from different institutions, universities, and dear students. In the morning, we had a nice plenary session, and for the whole day there has been a lot of discussion. So at the end of the day, there is hardly anything left for the speaker to speak, but we have a very young list of speakers. I'm sure that they will discuss on various aspects of quality in higher education. See, first of all, I would like to initiate the talk with the issue that why there is a discussion on quality enhancement, higher education, why this is relevant today. This is very relevant. I congratulate the organizing team, the director sir, that they have really taken up the issue which is very, very important and vibrant. Why so? So what happens, these young people, students, scholars and faculty and delegates, they have a lot of energy. So it is really very enthusiastic to be among such vibrant persons. But the only thing is that energy need to be channelized towards the goal of the day. So I was talking that why the quality education is being discussed today so much. Why? Because you must have seen that in last few days, not only in India, but in the whole world, we are living in a post-truth world. We are living in such a scenario where there was a lot of discussion on fake news, social media, and there are some papers also in this session about social media and fake news. So we are living in such a scenario that there is a flood of information, there is a flood of data, but not flood of knowledge. And the data which is available to the students, and students presume that yes, we need not to attend the class, we need not to attend the seminar because we have abundance of data. Sorry, you are mistaken. You have data, you need information. You have information only, but information is not sufficient. You need knowledge. You may have knowledge, but you need wisdom. You may have wisdom, but country needs positive attitude. So, starting from the data to information to knowledge to wisdom to attitude, positive attitudes, which leads to the building of the society, which is lacking in higher education. We are passing out, we are producing fantastic IITians, best of the surgeons, we are producing best of the scientists, National Chemical Laboratory, National Physical Laboratories, and there are so many, IISER and all. But at the same time, we are not able to resolve petty problems. Small problems we are not able to resolve. Our chief scientists have failed to resolve the simple problems. Why? Because our higher education has been in such a fashion that we are producing technocrats with technical skills in higher education. But we need technocrats with life skill. We need technocrats with social skill. We need technocrats, medical expert, scientists with a human touch, with soft skill, which is lacking. That is why there is a whole hue and cry among universities, whether it is JNU, AMU and all. We all are part of this system. So why this hue and cry is there? And what we need to do, not only in this country, in the whole world, there is a, series of cases you will see, whether it is China, whether it is, these are other countries, the agitation among society, among youth, you must have seen that they are coming in different ways. They are coming with different modes. Now, why this all is happening? So for that, government has thought long back that we need to, let's channelize our education system in such a way that in the morning there was a discussion on skill gap, that hardly 25% of our BBA, MBAs and BTechs, and in some surveys says only 7% to 8% of our BTechs are employable. Industry say rest is garbage for us. Industry do not accept. It means 92% pass out BTechs are not acceptable by the industry. That is why there was a discussion, and there was a discussion that every university should adopt such a flexible system of education, whereby a student of BTech can also attend some of the classes in liberal arts. A student of physics can take one paper in marketing, which is not happening. I don't know to what extent IP University has adopted the flexible system. So, first of all, we need to, because future jobs will be such that they will not be typical 10 to 5. Our parents used to do the jobs, going morning in the office at 5 o'clock, returning home. Gone are the days. All jobs are tailor-made. All jobs are basically contract-made. Short-term jobs are there, and hiring through specialized agencies. So, at the same time, we can have the advantage of this economy that we call as gig economy. But at the same time, there are challenges, because we are used to of regular jobs, fixed salaries. But in future, this generation, they will not have fixed salary jobs. Now we need to train our young minds that yes, you are living in such an economy. We are passing through 4th generation industrial revolution. So certainly some jobs will extinct. They no longer exist in the next 10 years. New jobs will come up. New skill set will require. Are our universities ready? That is why the government is giving so much emphasis on skill set. And in our country, you must be aware that there are some sector skill councils. And I'm sure the Technia Institute of Advanced Studies must also have some kind of license, MOU or some kind of association with these sector skill council, so that the graduating BBAs, they can be provide proper skill which is required by the industry, which is lacking today all across the country. So we really need skill-based education. For that, government has made a complete comprehensive package on vocationalization of higher education. You must have read the white paper issued by the Ministry of Human Resource Development. Vocationalization of higher education. Earlier there was BVOC program, now there is MVOC program. Now there is PhD in vocational studies, we need to understand what message government is giving, that we really need to learn. And I am proud to say that Central University of Haryana Bachelor of Vocational Studies course is having 100% placement, whereas the other traditional courses are not having placements. As far as this is concerned, placement is concerned, because industry really likes the concept of vocational studies. Its pattern is such that students will have regular internship. In MBA, we usually have 1 or 2 month industrial training. That is not sufficient. Gone are the days that in 1 month or 2 months we can train students up to the industrial mindset. So that is why this concept has been introduced. Secondly, we need to understand that at every step in higher education, we need to adopt choice-based credit system. I don't know, I was discussing to what extent IP University has followed it, whether by name or in the true spirit. So I'm sure that they have not followed it in true spirit. Until and unless we follow it, choice-based credit system, we cannot multidisciplinary approach and multidisciplinary approach cannot be developed. Multidisciplinary approach is not developed. Certainly, our pass outs are not employable, not acceptable, because they are vigorously trained in a particular discipline, which we don't require. We require a person who is vigorously, technically trained in a particular discipline with some soft skill, with some social skill. So I'm sure that such system has not been adopted by our universities. I am also part of university system. I am also part of making curriculum, but I frankly accept that till this date, we have not been able to practically adopt this system. So until and unless we do not adopt this system, we cannot think of quality in higher education. As far as budget is concerned, we must have seen, at the same time we are talking of quality, but our budget to the GDP ratio is least in the world's developed countries. So if we need to give priority to the education, certainly we should give priority to the research grant. In the last 1 or 2 years, there has been a huge crunch of resources to the universities, to the laboratories. And government is saying, giving the target that universities should take, ranking in the world's top 100 universities. But at the same time, there is a huge crunch. How can we do it? So, what we need to do is, government says that you don't invest much funds and you follow MOOCs, massive open online courses. Again, I don't know to what extent our Technia Institute or IP University has developed MOOCs courses, or they have made it a part of their curriculum. In our university, we have made a part of system that every student who is passing out, if he attend and passes out one MOOC course, we give 2 credits. Do we have this system? Because it will certainly reduce the cost of the government. At the same time, it will provide flexible education to the remotest area. So, you must have seen that there is a Swayam portal by MHRD, On that portal, various courses are there. And for faculty members, those who are sitting here, I would like to tell you that if you are willing to go for promotion, every faculty need to attend one ARPIT course, annual program in teaching through MOOCs. So, are we adopting that? No. Officially, UGC and government has mandated, but it has not reached to the last stage. So these are the areas which I think the challenges, the hindrances in the quality education in India. So if we follow these things, certainly government's roadmap is clear that if we follow MOOCs, if we follow sector skill council mandate, if we follow vocational model, if we follow skill education through industry partnership, not for the sake of namesake, but actually in practice. If we follow, then only we can think of quality. Otherwise, it is daydreaming that our universities will apply for ranking at the world level and we will appear in the top list of 100 or 50 or even 500. So that is the challenge which our higher education has today. Let's see how these young researchers, how these young paper presenters, they have their own view on this issue. So thank you very much. Now I invite Ms. Sana Ahmed from Amity Institute of Education, and she is going to present Usage and Impact of Social Media on Quality and Ease of Education.
Good evening, everyone. The title of my paper is Usage and Impact of Social Media on the Quality and Ease of Education of B.Ed students from a private university of Noida. Well, I'll jump to the objectives. Well, the objectives of my study is to identify the most popular social media platforms among the students of B.Ed and the amount of time devoted to them, to explore the reasons for which social media is most commonly used, and whether one of those reasons is to aid in academics, and to assess the level of importance of social media for the students and its impact in their B.Ed coursework. Well, 100 students distributed across all the pedagogies of the 2 semesters of B.Ed they participated in the study. And it was conducted through self-administered questionnaire, and the analysis of the data was done using SPSS. Okay, so I'll share the important findings only. Well, 96% of the participants were females and 4 were males, and they lied in the age range of 21 to 39, with 90%, the majority of them in the age bracket of 20 to 25 years. Of all the devices, smartphones was the most popular device that were being used by the students to connect to the internet, and it accounted for 55.8%. Okay, if we look at frequent users of social media, YouTube and WhatsApp had the maximum users. And students were asked to rank the uses of social media. So this is, after the analysis, this is what the order of importance that came up. So chatting with friends, followed by activities related to study. So we can say that they have ranked studies at number 2, majority of them. So it is important. Social media is very important for them for studies. Okay, so they were asked about which social media they commonly use to supplement their B.Ed coursework. And in this question, a majority of the students have answered YouTube and WhatsApp, followed by academia. So the time that they are spending on social media for studies is like 36% of the entire sample they are spending 1 to 3 hours on the social media for studies. The students were asked about what they will do if they are stuck with a problem related to their coursework. And if we look at the category of always, majority of the students have opted for resort to social media, followed by asking a teacher. And again, if we see the social media that is being used by the teachers, it is also matching with the social media, the most common social media that the students used. So it is again WhatsApp and YouTube that is the most popular social medias being used by the teachers as well. 98% of the total sample population believe that social media has helped them in their studies during B.Ed. And all those who said yes to this question, the types of help that it is providing, we can see that in the category of often, almost equal number of students have selected the options of making assignments, making notes, making lesson plans, making study groups, and interacting with teachers. But if we look at the category of always, assignments, projects, and note making is the most popular option, popular use of social media, the popular way in which it is helping. Students were asked about the effect the social media will have if the effect on the result if the social media is completely removed from their life. So 60% of the students have said that it might affect their result. 90% said that it might affect their grades very badly. And even some students, 3% believe that they might even fail in their exams if social media is eliminated from their life. And if it is removed, all those students who have said to the previous question, the areas most impacted will again be those helping areas that the students selected in the previous question, that is assignment making, project making, and the note making that they selected in the previous answer. So this is the area that will be most impacted if the social media is completely removed from their life. And for the negative impact of social media, majority of the students count killing of the creativity and imagination as the biggest negative impact, followed by wastage of time, causing addiction, causing distraction as the major negative impacts of social media on education. So, well, this study has helped to get the perspectives of the students about effect of social media and its level of importance in their academic life. So the results show that social media has a very significant role to play towards the quality and ease of education for the students during the course of B.Ed. Thank you.
Now I invite Ms. Chetna Arora from Kalindi College, Delhi University.
Good evening, everyone. My co-author, Gunjan Verma, Assistant Professor of Kalindi College, is not here today, but I am presenting the paper. My title is Digital Initiatives in India. Digital India is a campaign launched by the government, as we all know, of India, in order to ensure the government services are made available to citizens electronically by increasing internet connectivity or making the country digitally empowered in the field of technology. The initiative includes plans to connect rural areas with high-speed internet. Digital India consists mainly three core components: the development of secure and stable digital infrastructure, delivering government services, and universal digital literacy. As I talked about the objectives of the study, it is for to understand the meaning and the need of digitalization, to know how the technologies and connectivity will come together and make an impact on all aspects of governance and improve the quality of life of citizens, to find out how the government services can work effectively with practical solutions and innovative ideas to accomplish the vision of Digital India reality. So, Digital Initiative by Government of India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the much ambitious Digital India program. This initiative will ensure that all the government services and information are available anywhere, anytime, on any device that are user-friendly and secure. This initiative help in achieving the objectives of information for all, broadband for all leadership structure. So the major projects under this initiative, Mr. Narendra Modi has always been in news for all good reasons. The project, having a total overlay of 1 lakh crore, aims to transform the country into a knowledge of economy. The digital initiatives undertaken by the government are Digital Locker. These initiatives eliminate the need for people to carry the hard copies digital of certificates issued by states, municipal agencies, and other bodies. digital life certificates like Aadhaar card, digital boost to Magnetica, Twitter Samvad, Madad. Madad launched by the External Affairs Minister, the portal Madad will enable Indian citizens living abroad to file consular grievances online to address the complaints. SMS-based cyclone warning system, online facility to firm to file single returns, online facility to issue PAN card in 48 hours, e-money, and Pragati. Impact, if we talk about the impact of digital initiative on public, if we talk about health sector, health and medical support and information websites, apps, and social media sites are pro-filtered. 10 of thousands of health-related apps for mobile digital devices have been developed for commercial use. Many of these apps focus on disseminating information about behaviors such as food consumption, weight control, alcohol consumption, and so many. If we talk about safety sector, it delivers contextual visual information based on live events and current information. Digital reminders about important safety practices such as wearing safety goggles or staying hydrated carry far more persuasive power when communicated visually. And education. Wireless local area networks allow users to access shared information without looking for a place to plug in their laptops. Information users now carry their laptops, PDAs, smartphones, CDs, etc. Precise access to their day-to-day material. So, every topic has advantages and disadvantages. If we talk about the advantages, the main goal of online democracy is the strengthened integration of citizens in the political debate. E-government enables the more efficient management processes. E-participation strengthens the political debate. E-voting increases participation. The disadvantages as well. Digital participation does not reach the whole population like rural areas. Liquid democracy or too much participation could lead to voter fatigue. Online voting can be a security risk. So, a digital connected India can help in improving social and economical condition of people through development of non-agriculture economic activities, apart from providing access to education, health, and financial services. And has been found out from the analysis and the interpretation that the youth forms the majority of our respondents. It has been observed that Digital India campaigns create a reasonable social impact and force the youth to think about the issue. The Government of India aims to achieve growth on multiple fronts with the digital technologies. E-technologies has the power to connect farmer with market, producer with consumers, students with knowledge, and likewise all stakeholders with their avenues. So here are the references.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next we have with us Mr. Geetam Dhawan and Mr. Harsh from KCMT Bareilly. Innovative practices and employability opportunity for sustainable development among educated youth.
My name is Harshvardhan Mishra and he is my companion Geetam Dhawan. Today we have got this prestigious opportunity to present this research paper on the topic Innovative Practices and Employment Opportunities for Sustainable Development Amongst Educated Youth. Well, this research paper is prepared by Dr. Prabodh Narayan Gaur, Associate Professor, and Ms. Sana Khan, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, KCMT Bareilly. Moving on to the abstract. As you get to know with the introduction of the topic, we are going to talk about employability. In the most simplest way, I can explain you employability. So these are those skills that are essential and suitable for a paid work. And with this research project, we get to know that there are three major aspects that make employability better. That are a good degree, generic skills, and a set of personal attributes. In this research paper, we are going to find out how one can enhance its employability and why it is necessary to enhance employability among students in this era. Moving on to the introduction, as I have talked about a good degree, so basically and mostly we relate a good degree with a good institution. Am I right or wrong? Am I right? Yes. So, and this is also true. Am I wrong? Okay. So basically, as you agreed with me, so moreover, we can say that not everyone can afford the fees of an institution like IIMs and LBS and other B schools. This is also a problem because everyone has degree, but a good degree can be related to a good institution. There is also a problem that
Excuse me, we don't have, we have paucity of time, so
Yes,
don't
sir.
go for introduction. Directly come to your objective.
okay, sir.
And if you have got some data, please explain the data.
Okay, sir.
Otherwise, you come to your proposition finally what you want to say.
Okay, sir.
Because we don't have time. Next 3
Moving on to the research methodology, so the researcher had used quantitative and qualitative techniques for collecting primary and secondary data. The major source for primary data were students, recent graduates, and doctors, and many more people like that. For secondary data, the researcher had focused on the newspaper, old research paper, and many more. The research had been conducted on 300 students, out of which 250 respondents were selected as according to their eligibility. And the main segment for this research have been Uttar Pradesh West region, mainly Bareilly. Well, I will take rest from here, and I would like to invite my companion Geetam Dhawan to explain the rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Harsh. So moving on to the findings. As Harsh told before, employability has three components: a good degree, a sound educational background, generic skills, and a set of personal attributes. A sound educational background is required for a sustainable development. A sound educational background provides a degree, but a degree is not enough to overcome the gap between the industry and the academia. But some professional and personal skills bridges the gap between the industry and the academia. Academic institutions have to adopt best innovative practices to enhance and enrich the skills of the students. As it is truly said, aptitude and attitude both are the shadow of same coin. To get deployed on good position, so family and institutions both have to come together to inculcate the A+A values among the educated youth. Some suggestions: psychophysical analysis should be done of the students, which helps in identifying and overcoming the skill gaps. Confidence building activities should be conducted. Multiple mock interviews should be conducted, because with mock interviews, it helps in overcoming the confidence, it helps in overcoming the hesitation of the students. Insertion of various OJT programs helps in research the job market as a skill set. Personal family support and time-to-time counseling should be done of the student. Last but not least, this paper is motivated by a sense of great urgency about problem solving of youth employment challenge. Government and stakeholder initiatives should focus on the right strategies and policies that can be youth-directed leadership programs, career-guided strategies, emphasis on entrepreneurship skills, relevant internships and apprenticeships to empower and transform the lives of the youth. So, we like to thank Technia Institute of Advanced Studies, and personally we like to thank Professor Sandeep and organizing secretary of this international conference for providing the opportunity and all the help. Thank you and have a nice day.
My question is, how did you came to these conclusions? Whatever conclusions, or before that conclusion, you have given some suggestions
Yes, sir.
and findings. Do you have some data? How you reached to these, to support these findings? Or these are intuition based findings?
But we can say that, as I have talked about, there are three major aspects of employability in general, like generic skills, personal.
My question is, whenever in research, whenever in any seminar, we are giving some suggestion, we are giving some finding, right? Either you say this is a perspective paper, this is a theoretical concept-based article, then it's fine.
Yes, sir.
That is your perspective, then it's fine. But if you say it is research paper, it is empirical, you have said in qualitative and quantitative.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, qualitative research is such a difficult task.
Yes, sir.
if you have actually performed that, kudos to you and your professors.
Yes, sir.
But when you give presentation and you give some, findings or suggestion, it should be supported by some data if you have done it. But as you say, your teachers have done and they have not provided, so it's fine. Now, thank you.
Thank you so much.
So next we have, now I invite Dr. Ajay Kumar Singh from Technion Institute of Advanced Studies, International University Ranking Agencies, a critical analysis.
Good evening, gentlemen, and today I am here to present my seminar as the title reflects International University Ranking Agency, a Critical Analysis. And you know that there is a lot and lots of agencies at the world level. They used to rank the university and college, and they used to give them points, they used to give them numbers, and usually the students and the parents, they used to take decision on that ranking, that where their young ones should get admitted, which course they should get admitted. So what they usually do that they used to rank the teachers and the college who used to rank their students. So today I am here to rank those ranking agencies, how they are working and what are their what are their problems, what their merits or demerits. But of course there is a constraints of the time, so I will try to put my paper within the 5 minutes. So what we will do that we will escape some slides, okay? So the importance of the study is to make change is to understand change. If you want to, if India is a growing economy, if India is growing in the 21st century, then if you want to understand the higher education of India, then we have to know how the thing are changes. And next, the question is what is higher education? So academic institution body that includes university, college, vocational study, prepare professionals for all sector economy. Institution of higher learning are enablers of research, innovation and entrepreneurship, addressing problem facing society, nation, are preparing individual for lives and career. So this is the somewhat a definition of the higher education. And of course, where we are standing, where we are sitting is also a place of higher education. We are all part of that higher education. And some facts, India higher education system is the third largest in the world. We all are very familiar with it. Next to the United States and China, we know that. As per the latest 2011 census, about 8.15%, 68 million of Indians are graduate, with Union Territories of Chandigarh and Delhi topping the list with 24.65% and 22.56%. Of course, we are in Delhi, and it is a proud for us that from Delhi, highest number of students are there who are enrolled in the higher education. And in India, 60% higher education is scattered by the private college and university. Again, this is a very prouding factor that we are here in the private education system, and private education system cater the most of the higher education. Being in Technion Institute is a proud moment for all of us, okay? Now we are a different ranking agency, and the three ranking agency I have took, one is the Times ranking of the World University, that is THE, QS World University Ranking QS, and Academic Rank of World Universities ARWU, also known as Shanghai Ranking. And lots and lots of discourse is listen about the time ranking of the World University. It is one of the topmost, is the one of the most famous, and also called one of the most infamous also. Let us see that how they are doing the things. I will escape the history and details of the Times ranking of the World University, and also all about other ranking universities. Jumping to the parameters they are using, the Times higher education, they use the parameter teaching is assigned as a 30%, research 30%, citation 30%, international look 7.5%, industry income 2.5%. Again, teaching means that whatever the things going in the class, how the teacher is teaching their students, that has the more to say in this ranking. Again, the research is the whatever the faculties and students are doing in the research field, how they are doing the things related with the different subject, related with the subject they are studying, related with the subject that are of social use, of the national use, that is the research citation. Other institution and other peoples who are involved in the research, how they are quoting the research that is being done by a particular institution, that is the citation. And again, international look, this is mean by the bricks and mortars of the institution, the look and the facilities and amenities that is being provided by the institution, that is the international look. And industry income, as somebody said in the morning session, that Okay, sir. Any problem? थैंक यू सर. वो कहते हैं जब समय कम होता है तो स्पीड बढ़ा देनी चाहिए. तो industry income means that whatever the amount of some bit the industry is pumping in your institution for the research work and all over the world that is being done, it is the industry income. And almost you will see the parameter of QS World University ranking. You see this parameter. I will jump to the next section. In some common points are the academic reputation is also here to say employment reputation, faculty student ratio, international research work, and network and citation per faculty. Some common points I will come at the last of the my discussion. Now the parameter of academic ranking of the world university, ARWU. Next, the 4 points are there: the quality of education, quality of faculty, research output, per capita performance. Now the some points which is very interesting and which will make you to think something, that all ranking has accepted the role of teacher and teaching. In such a world of the YouTube and the online platform, each and every ranking has accepted the role of teacher and teaching. No any other mode of has replaced the role of teacher and teaching. So being a teacher, it is a proud moment. Now other point is the competitive environment. This ranking has created a competitive environment among the institution to perform on the basis of international parameters also. Requirement of good teacher and talented teacher. Of course, whenever the causes of the teaching comes, again the quality matters. Quality teaching as well as quality infrastructure. Whenever the quality meets with the quality infrastructure, then results give and nothing has to say. Good academic research work. Again, the good academic research work is also a major point. Selection of course and college. This ranking has helped the parents and the student to select the right course, right university where they have to enroll for better future. And again, the job perspective is a larger appeal, has to say. It has established the landmark for other lagging institute to achieve. Those institutes who are not performing well, this ranking has set up their landmark that where they have to go and where they are still, and connected to the education field with the market. And these surveys had connected the market with the educational field, created a ripple across the higher education. And you can say that the surveys has created a ripple across the higher education. There is a discussion and discourse in the higher education, how to correct it, how to uplift it, where to move from and where you are. Each and every point is being discussed in the higher education. Enlightened the darker area of the higher education, and higher education, the area where the higher education is lagging, either it may be the
Yes,
quality.
sir, we
or
have gone through it. Now come to, you have made some critique also? Some critics.
Okay, sir, I'm coming, sir. Please hold on, sir. Enlightened the darker area, cited the myth of various institutions. Some institution, for example, Patna University, Allahabad was called that Allahabad University, which is also a central university. He used to proclaim that we are the Oxford of the West, we are the Oxford of the India. And this ranking agency said that no, you are not Oxford, you are just a central university of India. So this research has cited the self-proclaimed superiority of some of the institutions, and some more institutions are there who used to proclaim that said Harvard and Oxford of the India or some northern India. So this has cited that myth. Okay. And some negatives of this competitive business. This is said that this is all about the business. If the institution will come in the list, then their course fee will be high, and automatically the students will be paying there. So it is ultimately a business propaganda. Few can on which methodology is the most robust, and this is the one of the negative point is that all of the three agencies are using different methodology, and whenever you are using the different methodology, then of course the result will come differently. So which methodology is the most robust? There is a big question mark. Which university is best is depend upon the which publisher or which ranking agency has been told that. So there is also again a good lacuna in this system. Much of the data relies on the institutional submission. There is a room of error and malpractice. And the data that is being processed is submitted by the university itself. Nobody goes there and cross-verify the fact and whatever the factual data they have, the university has provided. So there is a probability of that malpractice. And English is the only, all the research paper that is being evaluated by the judges are only the English paper. And we know that from where मैं जिस विश्वविद्यालय से पढ़ के आया हूँ, महात्मा गांधी अंतर्राष्ट्रीय हिंदी विश्वविद्यालय वर्धा महाराष्ट्र, वो पूरा हिंदी में ही काम करती है. तो वहाँ के रिसर्च को क्या लिया गया या क्या समझा गया मेरे पल्ले नहीं पड़ता है, तो मैं तो ऐसे भी इत्तेफाक नहीं रखता हूँ. उसके बाद आप रैंकिंग पैटर्न को आप देख लीजिए, और बहुत शान की बात है, इसमें बनारस हिंदू यूनिवर्सिटी का नाम आया। प्राउड टू से दैट आई एम स्टूडेंट ऑफ बनारस हिंदू यूनिवर्सिटी, तो मेरे लिए बड़ी बात है। और आप देखेंगे कि जिस यूनिवर्सिटी को टाइम्स हायर एजुकेशन 301 रैंक देता है, उसको संघाई जियो जो है वो 401 रैंक देता है, यानी 100 डिफरेंस आ जाता है। यानी कि कोई अगर तेंदुलकर इंडिया के लिए नंबर 1 प्लेयर है तो पाकिस्तान में जाने के बाद 100 बाद वो हो जाता है, तो कितना हास्यास्पद है ये। और उसके बाद टॉप रैंकिंग यूनिवर्सिटी में आप देखते हैं एक तीसरा मार्किंग उसमें 184 पर आ जाता है। तो ये जो कंट्रास्ट है, इसी तरह आप सब में देखेंगे, सब में बनारस हिंदू यूनिवर्सिटी की बात करें तो एक रैंकिंग एजेंसी उसको 601 रैंक पर रखती है, तो दूसरी एजेंसी जो है उसको 901 रैंक पर रखती है, तीसरी 801 पे रखती है। यानी कोई डाटा में कहीं से भी कोई तारतम्यता आपको नहीं दिखेगी, है ना। देयर विल बी inconsistency in the data, so there is no, you can say, unanimity in the data. Okay, up now analyzing the marking above, there is no unanimity among the result. The differential gap is very large, measuring in 100. In such institution there is a question of credibility and authenticity. If data will varies is like that, only 100 points, then again the question will arise about their authenticity and credibility. It puts difficult situation in the mind of a student and their parents to decide for the choice of institutes. Again they will be confused by seeing the research and by seeing their the ranking patterns. So which ranking pattern has to trust is a big question marks. It poses a big question marks. Is going to take their result serious, and in such a situation nobody will take seriously their result. They will just a number game and nothing else. At the end of the year you just publish the result and nobody takes this as a serious. Now moving to the last section, that is conclusion. Yearly basis, एक साल का जो समय है वो बहुत कम है. 1 year is a very less time to improve, and there is a budget constraint, there is directive constraint. So it may be that in 5 years or 6 years such data should be published. So yearly, by yearly basis, it is a very minimum time, है ना. Government and agency are forced to prepare plan for overall education refinement. This is a good sign. Again, this is a good sign whenever the government are serious about how to uplift their institution, how to make the institution to come in the international ranking. And we can question the rating agency, but we can't question the motto of rating. It shows the reality of present condition of education in a country. And they, yeah, time's up. Okay, thank you. Going to act. Kicks started the new discussion. एक नया चर्चा परिचर्चा छेड़ा है, और थैंक्स इसके साथ। और मैं इसके साथ अंतिम में जो बोलना चाहूंगा, पोथी पढ़त पढ़त जग मुआ, पंडित भया ना कोई, ढाई अक्षर प्रेम का पढ़ा जो पंडित होय। हमारे देश में कबीर हुए, रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर हुए, नानक हुए, कभी और कितने संत और महापुरुष हुए जो कभी स्कूल का दरवाजा नहीं देखे, और उन्होंने जो लिखा है आज उन पे हजारों हजार रिसर्च हो चुका है ना। तो खुद ही को कर बुलंद उतना, जो कहा ना, खुदा तुमसे आके पूछे बता रजे तेरी इरादा क्या है। तो बस यही है, धन्यवाद।
A very good evening to all. I am Anushri, Assistant Professor of CPG College of Higher Studies and Law. My topic is System Literature Review. So here I am just going to tell you that we all are building up research paper, but sometimes it is necessary to find out the bugs and to identify, to evaluate the available research papers on the basis of their facts. So my paper is all about to review, and it's a review paper. So what the system literature review is actually means, a literature review just means to identify, evaluate, interpret all the available research paper on the relevant particular and on the basis of their facts. So why we need it? It defines benefits and limitations of your paper, and it also defines a gap. As already discussed that when we research something, so there is a gap between the air. So when we study a paper or when we review a research paper, so sometimes it is very necessary that any gap will not considerable. Then it also provides the framework and background in order to appropriately position new research activities. The importance of systematic literature review. So if there is something advantage, so there is something importance as well. Unless a literature review is all about to review your paper and to give a fair result of your research paper. This is the main rationale for undertaking system review as well. A system review synthesize and format your research paper. It is all about the quality and enhancement. If we research something, so it is also necessary to quality our research paper to ensure that our research paper have something which is really necessary and which have the facts which is reliable and realistic. So let's take some advantage as well. Our paper provides information about the effects and what the effects that our research paper have been in a following scenario as well. It is possible to combine the data using meta-analytics techniques. This increases the detecting and real effects that individual smaller studies that cannot be. It simply means that we can embed, using metadata analytic techniques to embed our paper, to find our paper, to basically provide the facts on our paper with the help of the research technique as well. If there is something advantage, so there is something disadvantage as well. The only disadvantage which a review paper I have is it takes some effort, it takes some time for analyze or research paper. There are two types, systematic mapping studies and territory reviews. Basically, they are the two types which defines the techniques to review your paper. Not finding anything, basically it defines that how you can available or how you can find some identification of your research. Basically, the first is systematic mapping studies. In systematic mapping studies, you usually find some evidence because when we research something, so we have our evidence or a proof for our studies, for our research as well. And the second one is territory reviews. Territory reviews is just a review of your paper on the basis of the formatting, on the basis of systematically, on the basic of your grammatical mistake as well. So what is the purpose of paper review? We all are talking about quality. If we are not giving the quality in our research paper, so what our finding is all? So firstly, we have to find something which is a quality assurance. Fine. And these are the purpose which I am discussing here, to good knowledge, to facts, and propose a research which is really needed, help to a narrow problem. When we are finding something, it is not necessary to find something in a broad manner. It is usually a fact that you can find something, that you can research something on the basis which you actually find, which you actually relate with your paper as well. And then commence a long studies term in the interest. So here I am just concluding with the time scenario. The basically mean of my paper is to find and identifying, evaluating, interpret your research. So I'm just giving the quality of research paper over here for finding your techniques on the paper. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone present here. I'm going to present a paper on quality education, skillful learning and employment. I have done this research under Assistant Professor Ms. Manisha. And we'll first discuss this saying, India's destiny is being shaped in the classrooms. The destiny of India is in hands of the students which are studying in the higher educations. Like, if their brains should be shaped in such a way that they can decide the destiny of the country. See, I'm going to talk about how the knowledge supply in the classroom and market demand of skills that are required should meet at a point. And rather just relying on curriculum updations, we should rather work on self-gaining. Being a student of professional course like BJMC, the market scenario, as far as I understand as a student, is really risky in terms of job security. I feel concerned and worried. If I can lead to a good place after getting through my higher education, so after reading about enhancement measures, I now believe creating opportunities by myself, for myself. I now, after being part of few internships, focus on software's new camera operations, handling newer equipments. Expose yourself to workshops happening, and that gets you in touch with the industry where you have to distinguish yourself. For me, my classroom is incomplete if I cannot transfer my knowledge into practical. I would like to conclude this research by saying that the curriculum should be shaped in such a way which can take the maximum out of the student. Thank you.
Next, Ms. Bhavna and Deepmala.
Good evening, one and all present here today. I Deepmala.
I Bhavna Gera.
From Department of Management Studies of Technical Institute of Advanced Studies. We are here to to perform a title on enhancing employability through digital education and several landmark initiatives taken to improve the quality in higher education. Introduction. Digital education means digital learning. It is a type of learning that is supported by a digital technology or the effective use of digital technology. Teachers and professors to find it the convenient way for preparing their assessments, preparing their plans, aided by the digital technology. Digital learning guarantee more participation from the students as well as the current generation of students are also use this technology. Means of digitalization. There are several aspects of digitalization. First, online admission, online exam, web-based sharing, digital material like PPT, PDF. Objectives. First, to study the current scenario of digitalization in higher education in India. Second, to study the employability through digital education. Third, to discuss the initiatives to be taken for the quality improvement in higher education in India. Scope of digital education. Digital education is a fun learning for all cadres and particularly effectively for the students as the innovative audio-video feature boosts the cognitive elements in a student's brain. Second, students view this is a flexible approach and an option allowing them to study as per their time and pace. Teacher also find this is a convenient way. Education institutes see the rapid rise in the enrollments which we added in the revenues. So for this type of research, we are using the secondary data from the magazines, journals, internet, etc.
Okay. Talking about the current scenario of digitalization in higher education, there are 5 main areas: the learning and teaching, evaluation, research, extension, and administration. Firstly, the administration. In administration aspect, we have covered all the records, records handling to be done on the MIS system in the colleges, B schools, institutes. All the automatic work are done. All these are done, and as well as there are biometric attendance, use of the social networking sites, and online admission, online exams. These all are basically covered under the administration aspect. Then talking about the learning and teaching impact, learning and teaching L&T basically changes, digitalization changes its aspect. How we are using the LMS, that is a learning management softwares for this. The learning management system software are being used which provide online courses as well as the learning which basically which are interesting as well as interactive. The educational softwares like Baiju apps, these are being used. Then digitalization of the evaluation. This is basically the performance evaluation of the students who are eagerly waiting for their results, for their hard work they have put into their exams. So for this, the tracks, basically TrackMark, the software is being used. It is also used by the Public Service Commission to prepare the result sheet of the student quickly. Then the digitalization of the research work of the research scholar. For this, they use the various statistical software like SPSS, chi-square test, t-test. These are being available, as well as there is a plagiarism test checker, which is the software used to check the plagiarism in the research papers to prevent basically the misconduct which are happening in the research papers. This one, as well as there are Google Scholars, the research scholars, the various applications which are used in the research paper. Then the digitalization of extension, the government, as our title says, the government have also taken the initiatives to basically to digitalize the higher education. The some of these are the Swayam. Swayam and NPTEL are in collaboration, and it provides the MOOCs, basically, which is a massive open online courses for the students. The NDL, the National Digital Library, the DigiLocker to put the e-certificates of the student online available. E-Shod Sindhu, this is the basically which is used in the research, which is used by the research scholar. Most of the collection of e-journals are in this basically the software. Then eYantra, this is basically about the robotics. Basically in the IIT Bombay, it was the robotic competition to basically for the real-time problems which are happening in this. And the global initiatives are also the GYAN, the Global Initiative of Academic Network. This is also then next.
Digitalization transformation on trends in higher education. First, the augmented virtual mixed reality. Augmented virtual mixed reality means it is the interaction with the users from the real world. And this is also used the digital content. Next, classroom set of devices like smart boards, cloud servers, etc. Redesign learning process. Gamification. Gamification, it is an application of game playing which is used to solve the problems like point scoring competitive with others. Personalized learning, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, it is a branch of computer science, and in the computer science language, it is also called the machine intelligence. So there are various uses of the artificial intelligence. Next slide. Recommendations. To make information technology and communication as a compulsory subject in the curriculum, provide the digital content like e-textbooks, e-workbooks, e-test, etc. Academic institutes should design their own application softwares like education softwares, classroom aids, assessment softwares, which is very helpful for the teachers.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I, Tanya Agarwal from Technia Institute of Advanced Studies, would like to present on the topic Impact of Social Media Usage in Higher Education. Social media has been impacting our lives ferociously from the last few decades. It has emerged and processed the way people think about themselves and the world around them. It is helped for creating information, giving feedbacks, opinions about what people like and what they don't. But it has also been impacting the lives of people through higher education. It is tracked that almost 85% of people use social media for information, whereas it is studied that 60% of people use it for higher education. And not only youth, but also the older generation has been impacted their lives by social media, where YouTube and Facebook are the largest sources of sharing information and creating information, where LinkedIn, Instagram and other social media websites have been also in use, but YouTube has been impacting the lives on a greater note. The learning environment in today's technology. It has been tracked that 78.9% there has been a 78.9% increment in the way people use social media for faculty-student communication, and it has been also impacted that there is a decrease in 4.4% of people using social media for faculty-student communication, where faculty-student communication here means that faculty relies upon students for social media to share information and create information. The blogs and wikis are also being used by faculty to create and share information with the students, where podcasts, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter has also been in part. The faculty asks students to engage in content with blogs and wikis and create content like blogs and wikis, podcasts, Twitter information, LinkedIn information, and Facebook information, where blogs and wikis have been a major greater impact, but Twitter has been on a lower note. The objectives of the study was to understand positive benefits of social media in higher education, to study the dominant functionality of social media usage in higher education and the dependency of students on higher education on social media. The research methodology used is secondary research. Due to different time constraints and other limitations, we have used secondary information, but in future, for further upgradation in research, the researcher will complement the use of primary data with a questionnaire and field survey to obtain relevant and upgraded information. The limitations of the research are as follows. The research do not cover the people who are in digital divide. Digital divide here means the people who are not aware of how to use the information or social media, or do not have the technology to use it. Where also the psychological factors such as personality types of participants were not investigated in previous researches. We recommend that people can be more aware of the platforms they are having for educational purposes, and appropriate planning is necessary to use opportunity and recover threats. Also, people should be given much more relevant information about how to use social media in terms of sharing information. Social learning growing in influence. There is expected a 20% increment in how people share and create information, where 70% is being tracked as experiential learning, 20% in social learning, and 10% in formal learning. Conclusion. the social media is considered an important source to connect with each other, where people have been using social media to create information and share information through blogs and wikis, where Facebook and Twitter has been tracked as the most used social media platforms to create information. The negative impact of wasted resources in social media has been also been tracked, where the people use social media for higher education much more in relative terms than in the entertainment purposes. Thank you.
Good evening, one and all present over here. Today, I, Disha Jain from BJMC, standing before you to present a research paper on quality enhancement of advertisements to a higher education. This paper has been prepared under the guidance of Ms. Hanisha, faculty BJMC. So my topic is quality enhancement of advertisements. So before going further, let's understand what is advertisement. Advertisement is any paid form of non-personal presentation and promotion of ideas, goods, and services by an identified sponsor. Now, role of advertisements. Awareness, as any advertisement is for awareness. Information, advertising helps to inform the targeted audience. Persuasion means it informs the consumers that it will buy that particular product. Reminder, if targeted customers already have a positive attitude towards a firm, product, or services, then reminder objective may be necessary. Now next, go to ancient advertisement. This is the Gurukul system that is being seen as a sign of higher education. The stamps on which the higher education is being seen. And next, we have the print advertisements of various higher education. Then in the newspapers, there are different advertisements. And after that, the most modern, that is the digital advertisement. The web banners and the social media platforms, that is Twitter, Instagram, etc. Now, these are the courses of higher education, that is the top 4 institutes: IIMC, Mudra Institute, Xavier, University of Mumbai. Now, next is involved top 4 institutes are University of Alabama, University of Queensland, University of Southampton, University of Leeds, England. This is the scope of advertising. It is creative directors, promotional managers, copywriters, graphic designers, and so on. Now, what are the skills that are required in the employability of higher education? First of all, the teamwork that should be taught in the institutions. People skills at how an individual can deal with people. Creativity, that is the basic root of advertisement. Patience means you have to be patient while dealing with your clients. The Indian entertainment and media industry is growing rapidly and expected to outpace the Asia Pacific as well as the global markets. This is the data showing the impact of digital advertising that is growing day by day. And the second one, that is the data showing the tutor engagement in the higher education. In the higher education, it is the second most, that is 0.079%. Now I have come to the conclusion that to be highly skilled and developed, skills are required and its demand are increasing at a fast pace in India. The digital advertising is conquering the market and expanding its origin. Quality enhancement is possible only through interactive, practical knowledge that is needed in holistic development of an individual. Since digital advertising in higher education is increasing at an alarming rate, then its scope is wider and it is a plus point for job seekers. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Today, I, Prachi Garg, and my partner Bhumika Gogna, under the guidance of Dr. Vishal Khatri, is going to present a review paper on the topic wearable computing in e-education. So, as you all know, we are living in 21st century and we are all surrounded by the technology. So let's begin with the presentation. The presentation has the following topic. Few of them are what is wearable computing, is history, few applications, and many more. So basically, what is wearable computing? It is the technology what we wear on our body. That's why it is called body-worn computers. It can be narrow as much as our wristwatches and can be broad as much as our smartphones. Coming to the history, I will not elaborate much. The roots of this technology has been established in 1980s. Steve Mann was the one who designed and built the variable multimedia computers. As the year passed by, this technology is evolved a lot. In 2015, Apple was the company who released its smartwatch known as Apple Watch, which has high features like touchscreen and heart rate sensors. And till now, from 2015 till now, this technology has evolved a lot. The further part will explain by her.
Thank you, Prachi. I'm further going to explain you that how wearable computers help in e-education. As this conference is about higher education, I will come to that also. In classrooms, some students cannot attend college for some other reasons, couldn't come on lectures. That is why this technology is very useful for them to do education and ease information very nicely. The students who cannot do these things can take videos of lectures, can record lectures of their particular problem. For making this instrumental very easy and make them into film so that they can interact with their knowledge very well. The Google has evolved and the Google became very nicely. They have come up with the Google Glass Heads. This Google Glass Head concept record the lectures and it has also a glass track in which they can track student information and knowledge which they are doing. This concept has came up with few applications in education which are going to help them. The first is virtual reality headset. This VR helps in education and as well as the student who wants to do higher education, this concept is very important and very curious because during using VR, they can interact with the knowledge, interact with the information in a reality manner and in more imaginable manner. The second is Google Glass Heads, which I before explained, but it is also important for the teachers also because teachers can track their students' life as well as the information. The third and the most important is smartwatches as Instapaper. In this modern era, the students are not very fond of carrying heavy books and read hundreds of pages, but this concept has made them very easy to ease information and can carry hundreds of books on their wrist. Every technology has come up with pros and cons. This technology also has advantages and disadvantages. The advantages they can access information very easily, fast, and in a very few seconds. The third is they can make the things very accurate. It gives accurate data. It gives such as your heartbeat, your knowledge, your information, your searching techniques. This technology and this concept have faced many challenges. They can affect your eyes, make you obese, and if there is no authentication, this concept can be used in a very bad manner. At last, I want to conclude that this technology is evolving day by day, and in the future, it is going to evolve in such a manner that our generation is looking very bright. Thank you so much.
Evening to one and all present over here. Today, Aisha Bahuja is going to speak on the topic Importance of Social Media in Higher Education. Someone has rightly said that if you are on social media and you are not learning, not laughing, not being inspired, or not networking, then you are using it wrong. Having said that, I would like to quote some of the lines said by Sarah Saul, University of Puget Sound. They are, we don't need a social media marketing strategy. We just need a brand strategy of which social media is an integral part. So what social media is actually is? Social media generally refers to a media used to enable social interaction. The importance of social network in higher education is undeniable and several studies confirm it very well. The study of the use of various social media can now be performed in different dimensions. For our purpose, the term social media technology refers to web-based and mobile phone applications that allow individuals and organizations to create, engage, and share new user-generated or existing content in digital environments through multi-way communication. It is very important to note that the difference between the user-generated content, which is non-traditional media, developed and produced by individual users, and existing content, which is usually traditional media reproduced for the web. The use of social media interfaces through computer and mobile devices has become quite widespread, and currently the most prominent interfaces are Facebook, WhatsApp, and Twitter. Facebook allows users to easily create their profiles and allow those user-operated profiles to interact with each other, allows for the expression of interest and the discovery of commonalities between users, and allow users to build and maintain good connections between them. In contrast, Twitter is also a content quickly and easily to an extensive number of users. With the interface, the communication exchange has become central, and the creation and sharing of user profiles is not necessary, but Twitter can link to user profiles that exist on other social media interfaces. Some of the objectives of this study are recruitment in the classroom and general outreach. Recruitment. Social network allows schools to reach potential students to their natural habitat. In fact, about two-thirds of the students report that they prefer using social media when researching colleges and enrollment. In the classroom, social media plays the most important role in every student's life. It has become very easy and convenient to access information, provide information, and communicate through social media. Teachers and students are connected to each other and can make the best use of these platforms for the working of their education. As social media is in its infant years, it is hard to predict what might happen to brands and users in the process. However, it is already being highly used as a ROI tool for marketing and branding. Social media is everywhere in our daily lives. Everybody has access to a computer at their home or at their workplace. People can use their smartphones to log in the internet from literally everywhere they go. The managing of digital is becoming very important for the most of the organizations. Companies need to adjust themselves to these new communication medias and embrace these new ways of businesses. Therefore, social media need to embrace design to better craft experiences with customers.
I, Mansi Arora, stands before you to present my research paper titled Strategic Innovations in Higher Education, a Way to Skill Enhancement, under the guidance of Megha ma'am. So, first question arises is what is strategic innovation? So, strategic innovation means redesigning any plan of action to cope up with the dynamic world. So, when education is strategically innovated, it not only helps in the growth and development of the students, but also make them more practical, proficient, and proactive. These are some of the research papers I have studied and reviewed for the purpose of my research. Now the objectives of my study. There are two objectives of my study. The first objective is to discuss about the requirements of strategic innovations in the higher education and the effect of such strategic innovations on the skill enhancement of the students. And my second objective is to compare the strategic initiatives taken by the self-financing institutes, government colleges, and the private universities. I have formulated 3 null hypotheses for doing this research. So my hypothesis is there is no significant difference between the innovative initiatives taken up by self-financing institutes, government colleges, and the private universities. Coming up to research methodology, here is the glance on the research methodology I have used. As the sources of data, I have used official websites of the colleges, government colleges, private universities and educational institutes, newspapers as well as journals as secondary source of data. The study is conducted on the basis of primary data, and for this purpose, the structured questionnaire method was used. Sample size was of 36. The sample was collected from 12 students, each of them from private universities, self-financing institutes, and the government colleges. And after that, Z-test is used in the Excel to test the sample mean. Here are my findings. Basically, innovation sessions are conducted by each one of them. Innovation sessions are conducted by self-financing institutes, government colleges, and as well as the private universities. Each of them are focusing in the area of skill development of the students and industry interaction programs equally. All of them have counseling centers for their students, and this is the main point that I find. None of them are focusing on practical work related to the theory. Each and every institute is just focusing on the theory lectures. They are not focusing on what is practically happening in the real world. Private universities have their curriculum designing with the industry academia interface, whereas others do not. So here is the spotlight on innovations that are initiated by the universities in India. First is industry interaction. The universities are providing a platform where students, faculties, and the corporate professionals can interact with each other directly. Curriculum designing of the universities are related to the industry, related to the real world, according to what is actually happening in the real world or corporates. Beyond academics, this is something very necessary for universities. Beyond academics, they are grooming the personality of their students by conducting various sessions on effective communication, problem solving, etc. Extracurricular excellence, the universities believe that the academics as well as extra co-curricular activities are equally important. Entrepreneurship and innovation cell is helping their students to turn their innovative ideas into the startups which are really successful in the market. So analyzing the data, as I have told you earlier that Z-test was used for sample means. So I have found that the calculated value of Z is less than the table value of Z at 5% level of significance. We have found that all the institutions do take initiatives, but there is no significant difference between the innovative initiatives taken by them. Null hypothesis cannot be accepted, and one of the major reasons for not accepting the null hypothesis is that some of the initiatives are mandated by the AICTE and UGC for taking, so that's why null hypothesis can be accepted.
Thank you. Thank you.
So one more.
You have already given that. That's good. That's good.
Sir,
Because
one slide.
okay.
Such innovations have a very positive effect on the students. Students become independent thinkers and autonomous learners. So I have recommended some of the innovations that can be done in higher education. So one of the major recommendation I want to highlight is eradicating the barrier between what students require and what universities are providing. Because students require something else and universities are providing something else. Students are the roots of developing nation. Investing in them and preparing them is the responsibility of each and every institute and university. So hereby I am concluding my presentation by saying that change is the rule of world, and this change is highly needed in the higher education for a better future. Thank you very much.
I am Isha Chaube, and I'm going to present on innovation in education. So basically, the first question arises, what is innovation? Innovation is trying something new or trying something new process or method. Innovation in education means stepping out of the box and challenging our method and trying new strategies to support all the students as well as the teachers. main objective of my paper was to explore the innovation in education. Specifically, the paper describes about the characteristics of the innovation. The main point that I would be covering here would be importance of innovation in education, how innovation can be done, technology effects on education, and innovation used by teachers. So, importance of innovation in education. Firstly, it's provide opportunities to different students at different regions. There are no certain boundaries now, and they have a opportunity to explore and perform. Secondly, it attracts the attention. It free us from the monotonous schedules that we usually which usually teacher deals with students. It changes it. Students are not only confined to the classrooms, there are now more options of e-classrooms. So student and teacher can interact through e-platforms also. Benefits of online courses. Now student can also study extracurriculum activities. Like, for example, from Swayam and all, we can study online courses. Then it is also, innovation is necessary in developing, marketing, changing environment. We need innovation in education to meet the demands. Then it encourages both students and teachers to explore more, that studies are not confined to textbook only. We can explore through internet and various sources. Now, how can innovation be done in education system? Basically, I have found that two ways in which innovation in education can be done: by improving in quality of education and quality of classrooms. Improving quality of education means providing every child with a right to education. Still in India, there are 35 billion students who doesn't get a right to educate or get a right to study in a school. So basically providing the students with the right to education with knowledgeable teacher. UNICEF defined that there are 4 components of quality of education, that are learners' outside experience, learning environment, and learning processes and education outcome that defines the quality of education. Quality of classrooms. Quality of classrooms means adapting a new ways, interactive ways, so that teacher and student can interact in new ways, like through PowerPoint presentation, e-lecture, e-classrooms, etc. Now, how technology has changed the education. Technology has strongly impacted our life. From every little corner of our life, we are surrounded by the technology. Firstly, it expanded the access of education greatly. With a single click, we can get a tremendous amount of information. It has increased the scope of communication. Scope of communication has increased. We can communicate with the world. We can collaborate with them. Students can now share their learning experience. What are they learning? What can they learn? What others can learn from their experience. Technology has enabled a new way of learning, communicating, and collaborating. Technology has impacted the changed the role of teachers. Now, role of teacher are changing. We are not only dependent upon a physical person present in our class. We can now use e-classes. We are not only defined or confined in our classrooms. We can study at our home with our own teachers, like that are our internet or YouTube, etc. Innovation that teacher can use to make their class more engaging. Obviously, we need new method, new technology, so that students can find the class more interactive. Firstly, I'm introducing flip
Thank
method.
you. Come to your conclusion slide, please.
Okay.
Because there are 3 more students.
So I have concluded that innovation in education is necessary. With the growing market, we need innovations, because neither a student nor an institution can stay in a market without innovation. It breaks the barrier in the education system. Now, all around the world, we can communicate with any teacher present at any region, any part of the world. It is a way to provide exposure to the students. Now we can visit different sites, different teachers. It's a way to exposure for us also. Innovation can make a classroom more engaging from the point of view of teacher and point of view of teacher-student. Innovation, at last I want to say that innovation is about how you can use technology to empower students to become lifelong learner who are the agent of change. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ishika.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ishika Bedi of BBA Morning, Technical Institute of Advanced Studies. I'm here to present my paper. I am here to present my PPT on my paper Quality of Higher Education. Introduction. What is education? We all are talking since the morning what is quality of education and different topics, but what is education? Education is a basic need of human development. We can escape poverty from education. India, after so many years of independence, still in India 20% of the population is below poverty line. Only education is the route to come out of that fiscal cycle of poverty. Still, after 799 universities in India, students are going outside abroad. There are 799 universities in India which provide higher education to the students, but still, every year, so many students go to abroad for higher education. What is the reason to that? That can be the quality of higher education. Quality of higher education can be defined in multiple ways, which we together talk about the quality of education. It means the teaching, not just fact, but determining those facts. To determine those facts, the critical thinking, learning, understanding the situation is very important. From learning from books and just scoring good marks is not quality of education. Using those methods that we learn in our real situation, that is quality of education. A survey of 100 people were conducted to understand the better review of students, teachers and parents regarding the quality of higher education. Questions were asked regarding the curriculum and other factors. The study shows that the respondents were 40% of male and 60% were females, 13% faculties, 22% parents and other 65 students. The study talk about good teaching methods, using of different techniques like projectors, field study, extracurricular activities, personality development, extra courses, work of placement cell, working of student welfare, appropriate student staff ratio, and another library facilities. Finding, many of the students were satisfied from the teaching methods, whereas there were multiple suggestions to important curriculum for better learning experience. Students want more interaction activity, whereas teacher wants a better and stable classrooms and environment where teachers can teach the students. It was being seen that the field study is very important part of student curriculum nowadays. 40% of students informed that the colleges are performing field studies. The colleges also provide extra courses for better understanding. Personality development has also been an important part of curriculum in this scenario. Personality development is very important for the student because the college students are just passed from the 12th. They have no experience in the market and they need to develop their personality. The survey tells that the 78% of the colleges are providing personality development classes to their students. Extracurricular activities are also important part of the student's life and also help in development personality of students. From the study, we understand that the colleges encourages their students to participate in extracurricular activities. The study also shows that the student-staff ratio is not appropriate. A single teacher is teaching many subjects to them, and which is increasing the burden on the faculty. Quality of higher education system in India. India's higher education system is the third largest education system in the world, after United States and China.
Time is less, so just quickly let me give you a glimpse about the student employability. Organizations of advanced education are analyzing the strategies so that they could improve the understudy employability. Bosses are requesting the educational aptitude as compared to as compared to the subjects involved in their higher education and involving the non-exclusive aptitudes, like make them adaptable to the different situations which can be they faced in the companies. So, managers are searching for the individuals who are adaptable, step up to plate, and can attempt an assortment of assignment in various conditions. They are more administration situated, making data and social abilities progressively significant. So, now what is employability? Employability is a word that can be utilized in various settings and various implications. Employability is about more extensive arrangement of aptitudes and characteristics. Now, why is employability very important? First of all, in this competitive world, it is very important that a person should remain competitive. Secondly, it helps in achieving your goals, enhancing your education, engaging student experience. Now, these are my following research objectives. First is to study the position of student employability in India, to study the major reasons of unemployment in India, and to study major government policies for unemployment. Under research methodology, I have covered the scope of the study. The scope of the study is to get the first-hand knowledge about the awareness of the people about the employment system of the country, the government policies which have been launched for improving the student employability. This study also helps to know what, according to the people, is the mindset of the people for the student employability. And lastly, one of the most important factors important for a job. So the data interpretation, this data is based upon the 150 samples that were given to the common people and what is their response for that. So first question was that which of the government policies people are aware of the most, and 82 people out of 150 people voted that they are mostly aware about the policy, that is Jawahar Rozgar Yojana. It was launched on April 1st, 1989, and under this the people under poverty line are given the employment for 90 to 100 days. As you can see in the bar graph, the percentage is shown, that is 54.66% people voted for Jawahar Rozgar Yojana. Next, the second question was that if CSR activities have any effect on the problem of unemployment in the country. And as you can see, the 95 people are not sure about it has any impact on the situation of unemployment or not. Thirdly, as shown in the data, the employment has a great impact on the economy of the people, which is very obvious that if unemployment will increase, the economy of the country will subsequently decline. And 110 people out of 150 people said that yes, the country economy is affected by unemployment, which is 73.34% people. Moving further, my next question was that what is the most important factor of a person when he goes for the recruitment? And most of the people with 55 votes voted that personality is the most important trait that an employer sees in an employee during the recruitment. Moving further, my next question was that which is the most vital reason that unemployment is increasing in India? And almost the votes were equal, but the caste system was given the most votes with 53 people, that is 35.33%. Lastly, the people voted that encouraging entrepreneurship is a solution towards the problem of unemployment. Recommendation, in my view, I am very much agreeing with the common people, but in the two situations, like the people voted that CSR activities are not surely affecting the problem of unemployment, but in my view, CSR activities have a great impact on the problem of unemployment. And the last fact in which I don't agree with the data I collected is that the overpopulation is the most important reason why the unemployment is increasing. As you all know that 70% of country's population is youth, and the population is unlimited, but jobs in the country are very limited. So let me jump on the conclusion.
The study concludes that most of the people are aware about the current employment system of the country. They are quite aware of the fact that the employment rate is very down and it has to be improved. Also, what policies and what measures are launched by the government for the same. All analytical tools depict that different people have different mindsets. The findings of the study will also help the different people about the impact of the unemployment in the country.
See, I'm talking to students, basically, you all, right? I think some more students are there. After collecting data from 150 people, you are solving country's unemployment problem. You are concluding about what policies should be there in the country after studying the data to 150 persons. You say the findings of the study will be helpful in knowing impact of unemployment in country. What is the impact of unemployment on the country? This study will do, right? There have been commissions, there have been committees after committees since independence. They have been working for years and years, for decades and decades. They couldn't find the solution, but our BBA students have found the solutions. So let's clap for them. So, my point is, after studying a data of 150 persons, and that too primary data, asking people, what do you think about it? What do you think about this? Can we find, you got my point?
Sir, we can't find, but it's just the mindset of the people.
How many people?
150 people,
How much is the population?
130 crores.
150 divided by 1, you got my
Sir,
point?
I just
So,
said
I mean-
about 150 people.
But emphatically say,
Yeah, I'm sorry about the
you
last
say
time.
very strongly. Then you say, all analytical tools depict. Which analytical tools depict?
The bar graphs I've given.
Okay, these are analytical tools.
Yeah.
These are simple presentation of data, you can say. Analytical tools are more advanced, hai na? I hope you will agree with me.
Yeah, I know.
Yes. Then, what policies measure? My basic message to all students is that based on, these are your primary studies, these are your basic studies, these are your basically trends, these are your perspectives. So you should not boast of that these are my 3 objectives. How to eradicate poverty from India. That is my objective. And after my conclusion, my study, I have found the solution how to eradicate poverty. Not only you, we all have been committing this mistake. So we should not commit this mistake. We should take objectives very seriously, 1 or 2. Very simple objective. Because you have studied at least 150 people. Last few, presenters, they have not studied any people. They have gone through some, conceptual chapters. Chapter 1, introduction, and they have concluded everything. Got my point? So, we should not jump to that conclusion. We cannot say that we have found this conclusion. This is message to basically BBA students. Because how BBA students can take up such a, huge study. But you did a good initiative, coming to this podium, taking a topic very well. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Shivani with my classmate
Shubham Bhatnagar.
Here we present the topic quality of education in developed, developing and less developing countries. The quality of education creates a better learning environment which creates a professionalism.
These are the literature reviews which were the most important ones. And because of time constraint, I'm going to just skip this part.
The objective of our study is to evaluate the current scenario of quality of education in developed, developing and less developing countries. Null hypothesis, there is no significant difference in the quality of education between developed and developing country. Null hypothesis 2, there is no significant difference in quality of education between developing countries and less developing countries. Our second objective, to suggest some measures taken by the universities to improve the quality of education. The scope of the study, this study is based on a convenience sampling. Further, we try to purely based on the probability sampling, in which we focus on what are the various measures taken by universities worldwide which enhance the quality of education. The methodology.
So the methodology is, we used the explanatory design research. Our sample size was 162. The target population were the students of top 30 universities across developed, developing and less developing countries. We used the non-probability convenience sampling. The sources of data were used. In the primary data, we used a structured questionnaire for the students. In the secondary data, we used journals, research papers, books, etc.
The analysis of our study, we use their test to compare the developed country with developing country. The value of Z is beyond the range of the standard. That's why it means there is a significant difference between the quality of education of developed and developing country.
We found the same result for developing versus the less developing. The Z value is 1.99. That means it is exceeding the range. So therefore, we can accept the alternate hypothesis.
The findings of our study: quality in education creates employability, which leads to economic development. Do you know why these countries are so much developed? Yes, one factor is the increasing rate of employability. The reasons behind: universities motivate students to work together with other students so that the team building spirits can be inbuilt. Teachers as well as students use electronic devices, gadgets in classes. Case studies are given to students to use the managerial applications in a real-time situation. Management games like chair, fly planes are the part of regular coursework.
To increase the creativity skill of the students, research and R&D cell of the students, R&D cell of the college takes part. The faculty members also adopt various innovative styles to bind the students in the classes. The college infrastructure is one of the most important motivating factors for the students, like canteen, library, and auditorium, etc. Skill development courses are also a part of, not the part of the curriculum, but extra skill development programs are being held in these colleges. Students are getting industrial exposures like in internships, workshops, seminars, etc.
The discussions of a study, we try to judge the quality of education on the 5 parameters that are learning environment, curriculum, teaching pedagogy, resources, and a good implementation strategy.
Well, by teaching pedagogy, it means the method and practice of teaching. So, while teaching, some question arises in the teacher's mind, like, who am I teaching? What am I teaching? Etc. And for that, the teacher has to adopt various teaching styles, different teaching theories. They have to also take feedback and assessment. And we recommend that the joint productive activity could help the students. The curriculum. Obviously, for better efficiency in the college results and for higher education, the curriculum should be redesigned, and it should be value-based, and it should be aligned with that of the industry-based.
The resources include infrastructure, adequate funds, and electronic gadgets. Recommendation: willingness of the top management, because they are the only ones who will going to supply ample of resources. The quality of goal
should be aligned with goal of the employability. So now the question arises, how is it possible? We will explain this by the help of the Commonwealth of Learning's employability model. This model is divided into 4 phases. The first phase is assessment and sensitization. Second is planning. Third phase is implementation. And fourth is evaluation. In the first phase, there is establishment of employability committee, which will with the help of balanced scorecard, they will find what can be the major improvements in the strategy. In the second phase, the various strategies which can be helpful for the institution will be planned. And in the phase 3, those strategies made in the phase 2 will be implemented in this phase. In the fourth phase, the evaluation will be done, because after the implementation, what are the lagging, where are they lagging, what are the
conclusion of our study. We conclude there is a strong need to redesign the curriculum where the faculty-student ratio should be 1:10. And with the industry and institution alignment should create the professional with a global mindset so that they can teach the international trends.
It can also be concluded that these are the skills that are needed by the corporates. So these are categorized into 6 groups, namely adaptability skill, development skills, communication skills, etc. And the question now arises how we can achieve. they can be achieved with the help of these courses. The first one is employability readiness. For example, in this, PIs, GDs, group discussions, personal interview, etc., business communication classes, business writing skills, etc., managerial skills, personal productivity, etc.
Yes. How did you reach to this conclusion?
So through that, we found that these are the skills that are needed by the corporates. And
Good morning to one and all present. Today, I, Muskan Lohia, and I, Twinkle Grover, are here to present our presentation on the topic Importance of Social Media in Higher Education. So here we go with the introduction part. So when we combine the two terms, social media and education, some of the parents and teachers thought that these platforms distract these students from their education sector. But in today's increasingly digital world, social media plays a meaningful role in the life of education as well as the students. So but it should be used in a very right way. Social media can enhance students' learning journey, also making it easier for the pupils to connect with their teachers in day-to-day life. Research has shown that how beneficial social media can be in terms of learning. Though these various platform, teachers can connect with students and incorporate social media into their lesson, making them more interesting and engaging. Social sites are a great tool when it comes to interacting with students since, as we all know, students are familiar with these sites very frequently. So, do you think that it would be great to use social media in learning and teaching? Yes, according to me, it would be a great tool for teaching as well as for students and teachers because it provides various contents to the student and enhance their knowledge as well. So, one more question arising in my mind, that have you ever thought that social media opportunities it could create in the future? I think social media create now a lot of opportunities in the field of education. Like we have various sites like YouTube and LinkedIn which provides a platform for jobs and internships and for learning also. Some of the social media tools which are using effectively nowadays, that is WhatsApp, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn and YouTube. So first of all, Facebook, a social networking site. Facebook.com, it is considered one of the big four technology companies along with Amazon, Apple and Google. It provides content to the students along with the videos and in a funny way that the students can connect with it very easily nowadays. Now coming to the Twitter, a microblogging tool. Twitter has been taken as a communication and learning tool in educational and research, mostly in colleges and universities. As we all know that the tweets are trending always and we get a lot of knowledge through those tweets and get the what is going in the world. Next up is YouTube, a video sharing site which is enhancing day by day. It provides content through video to the teachers and various students and help them to interact very well throughout the videos because they connect with it very easily. And YouTube is also now providing online courses for the students so they can do their education as well as do their online courses at the same time. Coming to the research methodology, we have collected total number of samples, that is 150, and the type of our research is descriptive. The type of sampling is convenience sampling and the data is both primary and secondary. So, we have collected the Likert scale, highly influenced, neutral, not influenced and highly not influenced gender, male and female. The interpretation goes on. 62 of the respondents are male and 88 of them are female and both genders are influenced. Hypothesis. Our null hypothesis is there is no significant association between the gender and the usage, and the alternative hypothesis is there is a significant association between the gender and usage. Now coming towards the result of the research, that is, we did chi-square test. From the above table, we can see that the test 5% of the level significance p-value is less than 0.05. So hypothesis is rejected. Hence, there is a significant relationship between the gender and the usage of social media. According to the findings of our secondary data that we have collected from various other research papers and journals, 64.4% of faculty use social media for their personal lives and 33.8% use it for teaching purpose. 41% for those under the age of 35 compared to 30% for those over age of 55 reported using social media in the teaching purpose. 88% of the faculty, regardless of discipline, reported an online video in the classroom.
Now, the various uses of social media in higher education. First of all, communication is very important. Communicate with the online Twitter and students, then add value to the subject, that is providing content. It provides the creativity to the students by providing various ideas how to improve their higher education in the universities, as well as build relationships. Next up, there are various social networking sites.
The challenges faced in using social media as a tool for higher education. As we all know, all of us are not aware about the social media tools. Also, it is very big challenge to motivate the learners, and there is a lack of course content in the online courses. Also, it is very difficult to grab the learners' attention quickly.
Now, ways to overcome these challenges. Promote e-learning. There is less of the people know about e-learning in rural areas, so we should conduct awareness workshop for this to promote e-learning and create awareness among them. Develop communication. There is a lot of communication gap between the online tutors and the students, so they should communicate and involve the subject matter experts for their solutions if they are finding any problem in the education sector. Next is evaluating the effectiveness, if the social media is providing effectiveness to their content or not.
So, tips to make e-learning effective and increase its effectiveness. First of all, the learner should know his subject matter very well, and also there should be a contact between the learner and the expert who are providing the content. Also, course notes and timetables should be available to every student who are enrolled, and also the platform should be easy to access and fully functional.
Next up, we are concluding with that education field is exploring various tools and techniques of social media to enhance the e-learning process. Various steps are taken to simplify the e-learning, and the limitations are looked so critically examined so that it can be more improved in the future basis. Many experiments are being done through the primary data, and various research are to be done by secondary data, and know the effectiveness of social media in the higher education sector. These are the references we took for secondary data. Thank you.